going on, everybody? I'm back with another YouTube video now. In today's video, guys, we are going to be ranking all of the Home Alone films. So before we do the ranking, I have a lot of announcements to make. So my first announcement is, of course, I decided to lay off of wearing my sweatshirt today. And because this is going to be kind of like a festive ranking, I'm going to be wearing my Santa Claus hat just for the sake of this video. And I recently watched the Home Alone films. Last week I watched every single one of them. And I'll say this before I rank the films, that I do not hate any of these films by any means, but there are definitely ones that are better than others. And this isn't like a disclaimer for somebody who's saying that I hate the films. This is because I truly don't hate any of the films, and you'll see what I mean when I talk about each and every film individually when we get into the ranking. So other than that, the few other announcements that I have to make is I got braces last week. So I was pretty busy last week and this week trying to catch up with schoolwork and after school club stuff and things like that. And it was a little bit harder for me to eat, of course, with the new braces on and stuff like that. And now I'm just fine. I can eat just perfectly. I got them on actually a week ago. I got them on. So I've had them on for a week, and I've definitely gotten used to them. So I might sound a little bit different in this video with trying to pronounce things because it's kind of weird. It's almost like my jaw is realigned or something like that. So it's kind of weird when I talk. It might sound a little bit like some of the letters that I pronounce might sound a little bit weird. So I apologize for that. The last announcement that I have to make is that if you guys were paying attention yesterday, I uploaded a short film and it was only up for about an hour. I'm going to re-upload that. It needed some editing tweaks, and I was talking to my after-school club about it. So there are going to be some editing tweaks with it, and it will be re-uploaded pretty soon, hopefully. So those of you who got to see it, I hope you guys liked it, but there's going to be some editing tweaks with the end credits because I spelled a lot of people's names wrong. And yeah, there's just a few other controversial things that we talked about that we needed to get fixed. So that's what happened there. So that video should be uploaded pretty soon. And stay tuned because more book reviews will probably be coming and more streams because this is my first day of Christmas break. So I decided we'd fire it off with a Home Alone ranking. We did just get snowed in. We have not had snow this entire month of December here. So it's pretty nice to have at least some kind of snow before Christmas because I'm sure it won't melt away too quickly. But other than that, let's get on to the ranking. Okay, so this will include all 5 films, and unfortunately, I don't have each and every film individually. The only one that I do is Home Alone: The Holiday Heist, which there is a new pack. But I have the Ultimate Collection with just the first 4 movies. Most of these were made around the same time, one a little bit after the 90s, but most of them around the same time. So at number 5, though, I'm going to put, I'll try to do this as best as I can. I'll probably just put a picture on the screen, but right here, Taking Back the House is going to be at my number 5 spot. I'm just gonna forget about showing the movie here because it makes no sense. But anyways, number 4. Number 4, the reason why it gets a lot of hate, and I guess I'll just go with some of the cons of this movie first. The reason why it gets so much hate is because they tried to take the original characters, bring them back, and make this sequel. And of course, none of them were original characters or anything like that. They literally reintroduced Marv, and the way that they reintroduced him into the sequel was somehow things weren't going well with Harry, and he finally became, I guess, the head burglar, I guess. So now he's with this other girl, which is his wife, and they're trying to kidnap a prince at this mansion that Kevin, and this is Kevin McAllister, so this is technically a sequel to the first 2, and it just completely ruins the franchise by doing that. I hate how they did that, and the fact that this movie was made 10 years after the original movies, with just completely new characters. It just makes no sense that Kevin is still only 9 years old, when in the second one, he was in fact, I believe 11, actually. So it just makes no sense. I'm kind of going off of this assuming that this was after the first two films. So it just makes no sense. The way I like to look at this film, it's not a sequel. Let's just say that it's an alternate remake of the original film. And let's just assume that this was made and there was no Lost in New York version. It was just that first one where he was 8 years old, and this is, I don't know, the year after. But even if that happened, it's so stupid. Buzz and Megan, once again, are completely new characters, and the plot that they go with this film is Kevin, so he doesn't live with his dad in this film. His dad is getting a divorce with his mom so that he can live with a girl that is richer with him in a mansion. What kind of Home Alone plot is this? It sounds absolutely ridiculous. And throughout this entire film, all I can think is the villain is really that rich girl, or it's just a dad. Like, why would the dad ever ditch his kids for that? Now, the new actors for the replacements for the original characters weren't actually that bad. Buzz and Megan weren't terrible. They just weren't the original Buzz and Megan that I remember. The mom was actually pretty good. The dad, oh my, I can't get over that. Kevin played pretty well, and I think the only like big problem was Marv. Like, there's never gonna be a better Marv than the original one, and they did this as if Marv like somehow evolved into a better burglar, and he's not like the crazy Marv that he used to be. And they did such a horrible job. It's so confusing. I just like to see this as it's an individual film. This wasn't tied to the other first two films. But let's talk about some of the good things about this film, because I actually like this film. I can enjoy it, and I will watch the entire series every Christmas. I'll watch all 5 of them because I really don't hate any of them. Some of the things that I liked about this film, despite the plot, I actually quite liked it in some ways. I kind of liked the butler, and I forget his name. The inside man. What is his name? God, I forget him. Somebody tell me in the comments. I always forget their names. But anyways, the butler in this film, I actually quite liked him. Oh yeah, Mr. Prescott. Mr. Prescott, that's it. I actually quite liked it. I felt like there was some character development with Mr. Prescott, and I feel like they kind of foreshadowed Mr. Prescott being the bad guy, which is one of the more clever things that this film did. So I actually quite liked Mr. Prescott as a character, and also the maid in the film who actually turned out to be the villain. I quite like what they did there. But with the whole mansion thing, I really don't like how somehow the voice commands are working in 2003. Somehow they have voice commands in 2003 for this mansion. Just makes no absolute sense. And some of the traps weren't as good, except for the elevator trap, which was actually pretty clever by him. And some of the play that they did with the dumbwaiter. Other than that, there weren't like a lot of interesting booby traps that were in this film. It was just kind of this, like throughout the film, it was more of just everything was kind of who's the real villain behind all of this, you know, who's the inside man, who's behind trying to kidnap the prince or whatever. So some of the traps were pretty good, like the trap where they were getting engaged. They were having that huge party and they go into his room to practice what they were going to do to kidnap the prince. That was actually quite the funny scene. But other than that, that's all I have to say about Taking Back the House. Other than that, it's a complete mess. I never like to see this as any relationship to the first two films. I like to see it as an individual remake film where we can assume that something similar happened before this film, but we just never got a movie of it. So let's get on to number 4. Number 4, and this might come as a surprise to some of you, because I think a lot of people like to see Home Alone 3 as the best sequel to the first two original films, the best attempt at making some kind of spin-off version. I didn't like this one as much as the previous films, and you'll see why. Other than that, it's still a really, really great film, still very enjoyable. The thing that kind of like pushes it aside from the other films is actually not surrounded around Christmas. There are some scenes where, yeah, they're putting like ornaments, or they're looking through ornaments, but like it's never like surrounded around Christmas theme or whatever. But the thing that I think sets this film back is the plot, just like Taking Back the House. The plot is what sets this film back. These four burglars, which is quite a lot for a Home Alone film, are working for a North Korean terrorist group, and they're trying to sneak in a missile chip, a defense missile chip that can, I think, stop air defenses or whatever. Basically, they're working for a terrorist group to steal this important chip, and then they have to return it to them. So they had to get it past airport security at the beginning of the film and stuff like that. So they hide it in a toy car, and it's so, like, some of the logic in this film I don't think makes sense with that whole situation. I think they probably could have been able to find the microchip even though it was in the toy car. I think that was really clever of them to do that. But I've watched some videos talking about, like, how that might not have been possible. But other than that, it's still a great film. Probably has some of the best traps out of the entire film. Some of the most dangerous ones, which is what we like to see. We like to see these psychopathic kids bring in the most dangerous traps and try to kill these burglars, because it's so funny to watch them with their clever traps that they set up. So the traps were really good. The burglars were really good. They didn't have, like, these bad jokes. Every burglar kind of had their own unique personality, and I really liked that. I also like some of the gunplay that they did throughout the final the third act of the film. I like some of the gunplay that he did with, like, the main burglar. I really like that. And then of course you gotta like the ending where they all get chicken pox, and they finally find the refuge who's they've been looking for 7 years. And when I first watched this, I was like, is he gonna get away with it? Like, what happened with him? They finally cut back to him in the igloo with the fireworks, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're finally gonna bring in this. And that's when I first watched it. So other than that, without some of there's not a lot of problems with this film. That's all I really have to say. At number 4, it's Home Alone 3. At number 3, and I actually have the disc for this, it is Home Alone: The Holiday Heist. I absolutely love this film. It's not the best film, but is my personal favorite out of all the films. And you guys are gonna hate on me for this because I know a lot of people hate Holiday Heist because it's, it never should have happened. 2012, it's just way too out of hand with the characters and stuff like that. I actually thought that out of all of the sequels to the first two, this one had some of the most clever ideas out of all of them, without making the plot really bad. Basically, the plot is the family moved in from California to Maine, and the burglars are coincidentally aiming after their house because the painting belongs to one of the main burglars. It's his great grandmother. It's like a painting of his great grandmother by a famous artist, and they're going to try to keep it. And I think I'm not sure how they were going to make money off of it somehow. But anyways, as you could expect, it was for money. And the only thing that kind of is a pet peeve for me in this movie, I'm going to call it a pet peeve, is they keep bringing back this stupid ghost thing in the film. Like, every time the burglars come, it's like no, it can't be a kid. It's ghosts. It's ghosts, and they keep repeating themselves with coming back to oh, I'm scared. It could be a ghost. The house has a mind of its own. It's funny. I really like it. Don't get me wrong. It's like not something that they could have just completely eliminated from this film, because I actually quite like it, especially in the third act of the film where Finn is playing along with the main burglar because he doesn't believe in ghosts, and he finally kind of scares him. I kind of liked some of the play that they did with the ghost, but I thought it kind of like they could have brought it down a little bit because it was getting a little bit annoying, and I feel like they could have just done something else rather than this just whole ghost thing. The one thing I really liked is how they introduced that online character when he was playing video games and how he helped him and stuff like that. He was just such a comic relief for this film. I think he was like, all these stupid jokes aside with the burglars, he was really, really funny. The online guy, I really enjoyed him playing in the film. I think it was kind of like a dad, like father like son thing, because the dad was like, guys, what am I even talking about? The point I'm trying to get across is I really, really like the online guy. I think he was a really, really good character involved in the film. That was one of the more clever things that they did, introducing this guy. And then he gets swatted, which is actually something that happens a lot. I thought that was really cool, and the whole SWAT team was watching the house get robbed or whatever. So I think it said, well, you shouldn't do video games all the time. I think the dad should lay off of being so buggy about him on video games and making real friends, because I feel like there was a connection between that family and him, and I like how they brought him back, and they gave him plane tickets for him to go see his family. So I like some of the character development that they did with some of the people. The sister was really, really great. Even though he wasn't home alone, I liked how they, out of all this trapping and stuff like that, his sister was locked in the basement. They finally go in there, and that kind of creates conflict between the burglars trying to get the painting, and then she escapes. The SWAT team watches him. I really, really like what they did. I thought that was really clever. And then, of course, you have Mason, the side character, who has that snow avalanche, trying to stop that one girl. Or whether it's with the traps, they make him look like Santa Claus or a reindeer. The traps weren't the best in this film, but I like how they did that. There were just so many clever things that they did in this film, and I know I am not making sense anymore. You guys are so bored of me talking about how much I love this film, because it's just my personal favorite, and I'm going to keep blabbing all day about it, but this is my personal favorite film. Let's get on to number 2. Number 2, and this is a rare occasion where the sequel to a film is actually better. Number 2 is the original Home Alone. And I don't think there's much to say about what makes this film good. There is probably has some of the best character development throughout all the other films. There's always some kind of character development, but this one has the best. It takes Kevin McAllister, who you think is just this weak, scared, innocent kid, puts him home alone, and then he turns into this more brave kid who is very clever, knows what he's doing, and ties it in with all these funny jokes from the burglars. These are by far the best burglars out of all the films. Harry and Marv, they're like Dumb and Dumber. They're just a great duo, and they bring in a lot of the funny jokes into this film, which just makes it 10 times better. I don't think this one had the best traps, but it was probably had like the third best traps. I think it was this Home Alone, then it was Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and then it was Home Alone 3. The one with the worst traps was definitely Taking Back the House, and then it was The Holiday Heist. It does have some pretty good traps. I really liked some of the traps, is what I'm trying to say, okay? I'm not making sense anymore. I'm just trying to blab my mouth, as you can tell, because that's how I am. But anyways, it's a great film. There's not a lot to talk about in an original film, because you just know this one is good. Everybody's watched it. And that's all there is to say about that one. Number 1. Number 1 is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And like I said, a few minutes ago, this is one of those rare occasions where the sequel is actually better than the first one. Home Alone 2 took what Home Alone did great and just made it 10 times better. They took the traps, made it even better, took the jokes, made them even better, even advanced upon that character development in Kevin. He's becoming even more braver than ever by putting him in New York. The only thing that doesn't make sense amongst these two movies is the fact, like, how they lost Kevin twice. Like, I'll never understand how that happened. But other than that, the ending was really, really great. I loved what they did with this film and the first film. They took a character who you thought was bad, and then they actually made it, then the protagonist and that side character talked, and they learned about each other and why they were creepy, or why they were like kind of like scared to do something. And that's what they did with that old man and the old lady in these two films, and I absolutely love what they did there. And once again, Home Alone 2 takes that old lady, who's basically the replacement for the old man, and made it 10 times better. They took Mr. Duncan's two turtle doves and they became best friends, you know, all that stuff. They just managed to tie in everything and make it into this really, really fun film. And I think that's what every film did, realistically. They always had that one side character who you thought was bad, but then the protagonist ended up talking to him, and they learned, like, the truth behind them, and that they're actually good characters. And then by the end of the film, something good happens to them. Like Mr. Prescott, for example. He decided to quit his job. You know, life's too short. Home Alone, the Holiday Heist. You know, you have that online character who's not necessarily bad, but they built upon him as a side character. Home Alone 3, they took Mrs. Hess, the side character. They did something with her. The first Home Alone, they took the old man, and then this one, they took the old lady. And this one, by far, just did the best out of all of them. This is the most enjoyable. Not my personal favorite, but the most enjoyable. It's one of the more longer ones, too, because they had a lot to fit in. But other than that, it was a really good film, and that's all I have to say, because otherwise I'm going to run my mouth for another half hour. Alright, guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed the film. Tell me your ranking in the comments section down below. Stay tuned, because more book reviews and more streams will be coming. Those will just keep coming because they're repetitive videos and all that stuff like that. And then my short film should be coming out soon, hopefully. I don't know when, but probably today I'll finish it and I'll upload it. And then I'm going to start working on the behind the scenes and bloopers for that film, so stay tuned for that as well. Otherwise, like and subscribe, guys, and I'll see you next time.